Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Nadia.
I have two questions actually on both topics. Let me start with Saudi Arabia. You just praised him on the UN vote and on sending $400 million in energy supplies to Ukraine. How does it fit in the general strategy or the review rather that the White House said they will take in the aftermath of the OPEC Plus decision?
Okay. Do you have a second one, or you want to wait on that one? So, look, Nadia, I think you know this, and I've spoken to this many times. I mean, looking at this bilateral relationship was never about producing a homework assignment. That's just a misnomer. That was never the intent here. We have been strategic partners with Saudi Arabia now for 8 decades across multiple administrations and certainly across party lines. And there's been ups and downs in this relationship. We've been very candid about that as well. But this announcement yesterday in Kyiv of $400 million in support, largely to help Ukraine recover from the energy attacks on their infrastructure, is an important one. And again, we were glad to see it. The other things that we've been happy to see in recent months is a truce now in Yemen that's on its 10th month. Been consistent. I mean, literally thousands of Yemeni lives have been saved by this truce. By moving forward on a regional defense architecture with Saudi Arabia to help not only help Saudi Arabia defend itself against attacks, and they still come under attack, but also to help us by helping them in protecting the 70-some-odd thousand Americans, both military and civilian, who live in Saudi Arabia. We're working with Saudi Arabia, and we're glad to see progress on things like 5G and 6G. Through something called ORAN technologies. And obviously, coming on the heels of the president's trip, we're working to, continuing to work to see if we can improve integration of Israel throughout the region. And I think, now that you remind me, that announcement over the weekend from Oman, that they are now going to allow overflight of their airspace to and from Israel, that also is significant progress that we've seen here. And that is a direct result of the president's engagement on that trip over last summer to the region. So look, I've been very consistent. I'll say it again today. We are focused on making sure that this, like all other bilateral relationships, serves the interests of the American people first and foremost. That's where the president's head is, and that's what we're focused on here. We're focused on moving this forward, and we believe that the announcement, again, over the weekend by Saudi Arabia is a step in the right direction.
And second, on the Aqaba communique, despite what you said, it did not really translate on what's happening on the ground. We have seen another wave of violence this morning, as you alluded to. 30 houses of Palestinians have been torched by settlers who are, according to international law, they are illegal in the settlements.
Well, our position on settlements stays consistent. I mean, nothing's changed about that. We view the expansion of settlements as an obstacle to peace. We've been very clear about that. And as I said in my opening statement, the violence we saw over the weekend is just another example of why it's important that we get both sides together to work on ways to de-escalate. So the Aqaba communique, while I understand the point of the question, it happened over the same weekend that there was violence. But that had happened is still a good sign, at least a step that both sides are willing to work to de-escalate it. And you saw very swiftly coming out of the Israeli side, condemning Israeli citizens who were, as I said in my opening statement, taking the law into their own hands. That was their law in their own hands. That was not an insignificant statement on their part.
So my question is about Prime Minister Netanyahu, who said he will continue with the settlement activities. Is this any consequences for him announcing?
Well, if you look at the communique, it says that they're not going to be discussing additional settlements now for 6 months. That's a positive sign, we think. And again, we've been very clear with the Prime Minister and the new government about our position on settlements. Obstacle to peace, we want to see a viable two-state solution. We don't believe that additional settlements work to that end. We've been very consistent on that.